Greetings all, in the wonderful name of our living Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ, Yahshua HaMashiach. I want to discuss with you something that really bothers me now. I see so many videos and people talking about Easter, Good Friday, Easter Sunday, and how they say it's totally about Jesus and all that other stuff. Some say that they don't do those things with the eggs, but they still celebrate Easter and stuff like that. Well, the first question that popped up in my head is, don't those people want to know the truth? It's out there, the truth is out there, it's so widespread. They just have to search for it. People think Jesus resurrected on Sunday, and then that he was crucified on Friday, and that he died in 33 AD. People, let's take a closer look here at the details of the context of everything. And the only way to get this right is to look into the Hebrew mindset of the writers, of the gospel writers. You know, the 12 apostles were all Jews, right? Or at least Israelites. They knew Hebrew. They were in the Hebrew traditions, and they knew the Torah. Everything was written in that fashion, in that manner. We've got to have a Hebrew understanding in order to know and to understand what the Gospels really tell us. Because it's one thing to look from the perspective of those who wrote the Gospels, which were Hebrews, and it's a totally different one when looking from the perspective of the pagans. Because of those pagans, feasts like Christmas means dead to Christ, and Easter, which comes from Ishtar, from Babylon, such feasts have entered Christianity. And all these are abominations, not sins, abominations. This means very, very high sins, very, very big sins. So let's take a deeper look into this, into what really happened when Christ died and resurrected. First of all, I want to tell you that this, what I'm going to present to you, is a very, very short version of what Michael Rood in the Jonah Code has done. This is only disc 1 of 5, and it's nearly 2 hours. So all those 5 discs are nearly 10 hours. I'm going to present you something in maybe 20 minutes. I don't know. We'll see. First of all, I want to tell you that Jesus was born in 3 BC, not in the 11th of September. That's when the Star of Bethlehem appeared. You can see it in Stellarium and other programs. He was born on the Feast of Sukkot, which is Tabernacles. That was 14 days later. The city was full of people for the feast. That's why Joseph and Mary couldn't go to Jerusalem. And even to have something in Bethlehem, they had to go to that place where the animals were. So, when we count down from then, and we apply all those evidences of the Gospels, including Daniel's prophecy timeline, we come to the conclusion that Jesus started his ministry in 27 AD. That's when the 69 sevens, or 483 years after the decree to rebuild Jerusalem, from 456 or 57 BC, started. I will show you something now. It is written in the Gospels that Yahshua Jesus began Jose 30 years of age. It was here about. Yahshua began being about 30 years of age, but in the Greek it's not peri, which means around. It could be 25 or 35, no. It was about. It was Jose, which means nearing, before a point. So before he began being 30 years of age. And in the Hebrew context, when you begin being 30 years means you make 29 years and then you start your 30th year. You make 29 full years, like your 29th birthday, and then you start your 30th year. So, Yahshua began his ministry, Jesus began his ministry in the spring, and his birth date, let's say that, was in the fall, when is the Feast of Tabernacles. So we go by this thing, we look through the scriptures and we find some forgeries which have prolonged Yahshua's ministry. And it was not 3.5 years, it was 490 days, about a year and some 3 to 4 months. Of the early church fathers and people knew without a doubt that even that Clement of Alexandria said that Yahshua's ministry was about a year. Only the pagans under Constantine, Emperor Constantine, and all those other popes and councils and all those things, they started changing and killing people who didn't want to change and embrace this paganism. So Yahshua's ministry was about a year. Exactly 70 weeks, 77s. 70 times 7 days, which was 490 days. So in 27 AD, in the spring, he started his ministry. I might show you a graphic, but it's in Bulgarian. I didn't have time to do all this. It's 27 AD. He began his ministry here this spring. Here is his birthday, when he would make those 29 full years and start being 30 years. Then we go to 28 AD. Since his ministry was 490 days, it included the acceptable year of the Lord, the 40-day fast, which was before this period here, and all the days until the 49th day after first fruits, which was the last day before Shavuot or Pentecost. His ministry was that long. So now when we know when he actually died, which was in 28 AD. And this is undeniable when we apply all the evidences of the Gospels, and including the historical evidences. It's just here. You cannot put it anywhere else. Michael Root makes that very plain and clear. I cannot tell you all those things in just 20 minutes. He did it in 10 hours. I cannot do it that long. I recommend you watch his video if you want to know all the details. But it's just mind-blowing. So now that we know in which year Jesus died, it was 28 AD, we have to know when the biblical year started. In 28 AD, about March the 15th, let's say, if the year had started then his ministry wouldn't be that long and nothing would happen. Usually around the half of March, the barley is not a beep yet. It comes a beep some days later on. The new biblical year starts when the barley is a beep, and then we look for the first sliver of the new moon, which is on the right side, when it appears. At the start it's a new moon, totally dark and black, and then the next day or the second next day appears the visible new sliver. That's when we start the new Hebrew year, the new biblical year. So it started in April the 15th. So April the 15th, at sunset, started with the night. The Hebrew days, the biblical days start with night and end with day. At evening, then night, day, and evening. So we know it was the 15th of April, which was the first of Abib, the first. When we count all the days, Passover, the 14th of Abib, that was the 28th of April. 28th of April, 28 AD. It's 28. Something to think about. That's when Jesus died, when he was crucified on Passover. And that was the 14th of Abib. And it was Wednesday. Not Friday, it was Wednesday. You have heard that the Last Supper was Wednesday. They don't lie about that. But since they look at it with the Gentile, pagan perspective, they've got this all wrong. Because Wednesday starts here. Look, when the night starts. But the Gentiles put Wednesday to start at here. This is approximately midnight. To midnight here. So they take of the biblical Thursday and put the Last Supper here in the evening of Wednesday, which is Thursday now. Actually, it's Thursday. Put it here. And then they go how everything went a little more slowly than it actually did. And they invented that pagan Good Friday. And why did they do that? Because they had to put Jesus' resurrection on Sunday. To call it Easter Sunday. Because the feast of Easter, which comes from Babylon, is on Sunday. It's all around that sun god worship. Look, Sunday, sun. They worship the sun. In German it's Sonntag. It's just so obvious. They do it all to put it on Sunday. Even Palm Sunday, that's another forgery, another lie. You don't read in the Bible anywhere that it was Sunday when Jesus entered into Jerusalem. Okay, so let's go with this. First of all, we're going to prove that exactly as Jesus said, that the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. I'm going to prove this now. In John 11:9, he said, "Are there not 12 hours in the day?" He makes that very clear. The day has 12 hours, and so does the night have 12 hours. That's the typical Hebrew counting of the hours. And usually, when you read in the Gospels, on the ninth hour that happened, on the 6th hour that happened. Well, there are very specific hours to hour counting. For instance, the 9th hour of the day is 15 o'clock on our time. And their 12th hour of the day, when the day usually ends, is 18 o'clock at our time. Okay, that was just clearing up things. Further on, we see, for as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Look here, 3 days and 3 nights. It didn't say 3 days. When you ask someone of those Gentile paganism infiltrated churches, how do you get 3 days and 3 nights? They can't answer you, because their basic theology is that Jesus died somewhere around here, Friday, shortly before it ended. If you count this as a day 1, Then you have night 1, day 2, and night 2. It is written that that Mary and Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went before the sun had risen yet. So they went during the night. So you get only two days and 2 nights maximum. You don't get 3 days and 3 nights. But since they invented that, it was three periods of 24 hours, it had to be, it counts if he was even 1 hour in the first one, even 1 hour in the last one. And so they make this one big one, 2 and 3. It clearly contradicts scripture. 3 days and 3 nights says here. 3 days and 3 nights. So that's an epic fail. And many people continue to follow that. The truth really, really sets us free. Okay, we continue now. And he said unto them, Thus it is written, and thus it behoveth Christ to suffer and to rise from the dead the 3rd day. So it is written that he will rise on the 3rd day. When we read it with the Gentile perspective, the 3rd day seems to us as, that big chunk. Oh, it could be here, yeah. No. Just as it is written here, 3 days and 3 nights. There's a clear separation of days and nights. Here, this 3rd day is, if it was the 3rd night, that it would rise on the 3rd night, because he said here 3 days and 3 nights, and why would he say here the 3rd day? With the Hebrew perspective, it clearly makes sense that it is the 3rd day, not the 3rd night. I will prove this a little later. Okay, so the Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation, not Fridays, in some Bibles, religious Bibles, they replace the preparation with Friday, because they think it was Friday. And they just put Friday to make it easier for the pilgrims. It's the preparation in the original Bibles and manuscripts. Okay, so the Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was a high day, remember this, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. Okay, so the preparation for the Sabbath, which was a high Sabbath. Look, it was a high Sabbath. With the Hebrew perspective, a high Sabbath is one of the holy convocation days written in Leviticus 23. Let's take a sneak peek here. In Leviticus 23 we read, In the 14th day of the 1st month, at even is the Lord's Passover. No, here it's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. "7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the 1st day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein." It also states that for the 7th. So the 1st and the 7th are high Sabbaths, because no work. And that's why they call them high Sabbaths. Not only are they holy convocations, just like the Sabbath is holy, but doing no servile work. Again, on the Sabbath we are commanded not to work. It's supposed to be a rest. Resting. So we see how the 15th of Abib, which is the next day after Passover, is the 1st day of unleavened bread, which is a high Sabbath. So the day after Jesus died was a high Sabbath. It was not the weekly Sabbath. It was the high Sabbath. Some might say they could have conjuncted. They could have been both in one place. Well, because we know with all those matching things that Passover was on Wednesday, then there's no way this high Sabbath could have been the weekly Sabbath, because the high Sabbath is on Thursday. That's when the 1st day of unleavened bread was, and the weekly Sabbath is here, 2 days later on. So, now that we know this, let's do some counting. Jesus died here. It is written about the 9th hour. He shouted, "It is finished," and he gave up the ghost, the spirit. That's when he died. I have divided the day into 4 segments. Each one is consisting of 3 hours. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 12. Up to this point here, it's 9 hours. So there is still one chunk of time, which is approximately 3 hours left before Wednesday, the day of Passover, which was also the preparation. Passover is the preparation for eating the Passover meal, which is right when the first day of unleavened bread begins. So there were 3 hours still remaining here, and that's when Jesus was buried in the tomb. If we count this as the first day, then we have this. Okay, this is first day, first night. Second day, second night. Third day, third night. It falls on the Sabbath. But it is written on the 3rd day. Well, maybe we don't start from here exactly. If we start even from here, first night, first day, second night, second day, third night, third day, it's here, again the Sabbath. And some may say, maybe he meant he has to be fully 3 days and 3 nights there, and after that, so they can still pull out Sunday. Well, that's not the case here, because he had 3 hours left on Wednesday. So we have 3 hours from Wednesday, then we have 12 from this night and 12 from this day. 12 from this night, 12 from this day, 12 from this night, and only 9 from this Sabbath day, to make a total of 72 hours, which is complete 3 days and 3 nights. 3 24-hour periods. First try, second try, third try, it always falls on the Sabbath. Always. Always. It is written in the Gospels that Mary Magdalene and that other Mary kept the Sabbath as was the commandment, the weekly Sabbath, and then they went, which was during the night of Sunday, on the first day of the week. So they only went then. It doesn't say he arose then. There are so many presumptions people make, but all we have to do is look deeper into this thing. But if Jesus doesn't reveal it to us, if he doesn't open our eyes, no matter how much time we look, we will not be able to find it. This is the big difference. And this is why we should not have pride. Let's continue on. So, what happened on Sunday? This is very interesting, a very interesting detail. Okay, so first of all, when Jesus rose, that was the 1st of May. Let's say that it's another interesting date. So let's read here in Leviticus 23. In verse 10, I cut out the first part because I cannot fit it here. It says basically when the Israelites enter Israel, the promised land, then they shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of their harvest unto the priest. And he, the priest, had to highlight this in green. And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. on the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. Okay, so let's go into what was in those days when Jesus died. So the high priest gathered that sheaf of first fruits of barley harvest, I think, yes, barley. Then he went into the Holy of Holies, waved that sheaf before the Ark of the Covenant, which is a shadow picture of the Lord, which is Yahweh, Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh, Yahweh. And that was done on the morrow after the Sabbath. Some say that was the high Sabbath of unleavened bread, some say it's the weekly Sabbath. Well, when we see how Jesus fulfilled everything, it's just the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath. And with the counting of the Omer for Pentecost, which is Shavuot, it has to be the weekly Sabbath. So, on the morrow after that weekly Sabbath, the priest waves that sheaf of the first fruits before the Ark of the Covenant. And you shall offer that day, when you wave the sheaf, a he-lamb, which means female lamb, a male lamb, sorry, a male lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt, and in the Hebrew it says a scent offering unto the Lord. When we see this, it doesn't make much sense, but since Jesus fulfilled the Torah about his first coming, it is very interesting to note something here. When Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb, Jesus had already resurrected, but when Mary Magdalene went to touch Jesus, to pick him by his feet, he told her, "Do not touch me, I have not ascended yet to my Father." And later on that day, he ate bread and some other stuff, but 8 days later, he allowed Thomas to touch him, to put his fingers in his wounds. So he obviously ascended before, he had an ascension before Thomas touched him, which was way before he ascended on the 14th, on the 14th day. When we see what is written in Leviticus 23, it makes a whole lot of sense now. So, on the morrow, after the Sabbath, the priest, who is the high priest? Jesus. After he resurrected, he is our high priest, and we are made priests by him, priests and kings by him. He is the high priest. He is the new and eternal high priest, the perfect, sinless, unblemished high priest. So Jesus went to wave the sheaf of first fruits. When Jesus resurrected, saints resurrected with him too. So he waved them where? And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord, which is Yahweh. Let's take a look here. What actually says in the Hebrew Bible. And you make in day to cause wave of you the sheaf, he lamb flawless. It's a little tough here to read it. To hear of him, to ascend, and actually offering is an added text. It actually only says in the original Hebrew to ascend to Yahweh. To Yahweh, not to the Lord. The Lord is just replacing the name of Yahweh. So when we know this, let's read it. And Jesus shall wave the resurrected saints, or present the resurrected saints before Yahweh. He shall offer that day, when he presents the resurrected saints, a he lamb, meaning again Jesus, who is the unblemished, spotless lamb, and it says of the first year. And as we now know, his ministry was about a year, not 3.5. And again, how it makes sense in the scriptures. For ascent unto Yahweh. So, what happened? in the temple, the high priest, just about when the sun was rising, about that time, he went in the Holy of Holies, presented that sheaf of first fruits before the Ark of the Covenant, and it was finished. No, he went away. Well, before it was still day, before it was day, when it was still night. Jesus told Mary Magdalene not to touch him. He was not yet ascended to his Father. So, little time passed when was coming the day, and then he ascended with those saints to Yahweh, to the Lord in heaven. He presented them to him. They were all the first fruits, Jesus Christ being the chief of them. And then, what happened? Jesus came back. He had some 40 days to minister more. And then he allowed Thomas to touch him. And then again he ascended on the 40th day. It's very interesting, this. It's like a shadow picture of what will come very, very soon. Which is a clue that there will be at least 2 raptures. One for the bride, which comes back to minister, and then off she goes back again to heaven shortly after, with the harvest, the big harvest. And let's expose another lie, the Palm Sunday. Now that we know that Jesus died on Passover, which was Wednesday, let's see what is written in John 12. Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. Okay, so 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany. From verse 1 to 12 is pretty much saying what happened on that dinner and stuff like that. And the next thing, on the next day, much people that were come to the feast, when they heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, took branches of palm trees and went to meet him and cried, Hosanna, blessed is the King of Israel that cometh in the name of the Lord. So, 6 days before Passover, Jesus was in Bethany. On the next day, which was 5 days before Passover, he went to Jerusalem. So, Passover is Wednesday. Even if we count this as a day, before Passover, then maybe they could have meant before this Passover here, the dinner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It comes to the Sabbath, not Sunday, the Sabbath. If we don't count this, then we have to go back to Friday. But it's no way Sunday. And when we look into all those customs the Jews still keep, and I think it's found even in scripture that on the 10th of Abib, on the 10th of the first month, the lamb was inspected. That was when it was presented, and its inspection started. So Jesus, being the spotless, unblemished Lamb of God, he fulfilled that too. He entered Jerusalem probably on the 10th of Abib, which was Sabbath, not Sunday. Because they moved things off there towards that Sunday, they put it Palm Sunday here. Okay, hope you understood now that there are many lies and that Jesus arose on the Sabbath. Let me show you in the calendar about this. Okay, so Passover could have started here. I didn't modify this calendar. This should be Passover, the day of Passover, and from here should start the first day of unleavened bread. So first, second, third. You can't get to Sunday to celebrate resurrection. you have to celebrate either Friday or keep what happened on Saturday, the Sabbath day. And even so, of the world, the Eastern Orthodox, the Catholics, Protestant churches, even the Pharisee Jews, and even those who still follow the true biblical calendar, all will celebrate on the 20th of April first fruits and Easter. It's so worldly and disgusting and filthy that I recommend you go to the channel See with Greater Eyes, where it says worship God in spirit and in truth. And by this way we pull up Passover and the 7 days of unleavened bread 1 week earlier, before the worldly one started. If you still think about celebrating Easter, I recommend you first inspect how does God want you to honor Him. With the ways He ordered you and instructed you, by keeping His commandments, His statutes, His ways, and not following the traditions of men, the paganisms, the satanisms, all those worldly things. You know, it is written, friendship with the world is enmity with God. The whole world is celebrating Easter. Doesn't that ring a bell? It's the same thing with Christmas. Even people who are not Christians, who don't believe in God, they still put that tree and celebrate Christmas. That still has to ring a bell to you. When the whole world is doing something so huge, why should a Christian take any part of it? A true Christian. Please don't celebrate Easter. And worship God in spirit and in truth. And seek the truth. Pray for the truth. Prayer is strength indeed. Exactly as Jesus told us. I hope this brings some clarifications to you. I think it's now about 50 minutes or so. It got longer than I wanted. Okay. I hope this blessed you. I hope this reaches to somebody who wants and seeks the truth. I wish you all very, 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 very much love in Yahshua's name. Much love and peace in His name. And pray for that truth. Pray for His truth, for His truth. Shalom, everyone.